Before I started growing mushrooms, all I could see was videos on YouTube of mushrooms coming out of these bags like this. I really didn't have any idea about how the system worked, how the process worked. So today I am taking you on a journey, how the process works step by step. So how you go from this to this here. Basically, it's an oyster mushroom that we've been growing here for the last 2 years. We've been perfecting the process and we have been working with many types of grow mediums. We've been working with sawdust, we've been working with coffee and straw. And what we found is that we like to work with the local products that are in excess of some kind of production. So excess products that we can turn into food products like this for the environment. So basically what you see here is a mushroom fully grown out and the bag in here fully colonized. Colonized means that the mycelium of the mushroom has been eating everything inside of the bag, and the bag is now completely filled with mycelium, and this mycelium is ready to pop out of the bag. And when we open the bag, the mushrooms come out typically after 7 to 10 days. It looks like this. We do 2 harvests per bags because we're trying to do it on a bit bigger commercial scale, not the biggest commercial scale, but on a commercial scale where we can produce 200 kilos every week of mushrooms. Soon we'll be amping this production up. We are getting 8 containers. Right now we have 3. We have 2 containers growing in the outside of our facility. I'm gonna show you that later in the video. So basically what we have here is a mixture of water, straw and coffee. Coffee comes from the restaurants we're dealing with in excess, so it's used coffee grounds. We have the straw, which is also a byproduct of the wheat production, so we're using wheat straw. We prefer organic wheat, but if we cannot find it, we are happy with the wheat that we have. So we've been mixing the wheat with the coffee grounds and the water to create the right amount of water content inside of the bag. So you see here we have the bag filled up. The filter patch here, it is for when the mushroom grows inside of the bag and it eats all the nutrients that is in there, then the bag will be filled with CO2 because mushrooms, like humans, produce CO2 and inhales oxygen. The mushrooms can really breathe out of this filter patch. We use the 0.05 millimeter patch. You can use the 0.02, but we found that it doesn't make that much of a difference for us. So we like to have more airflow of the CO2 and the oxygen. So basically you can say that a mushroom grows in 3 stages. The first stage is the spore, and as you can see here, the mushroom, this is the last and third stage. This is the fruiting stage, where you actually see the mushroom. So when the mushroom is like this, then all these gills are releasing tiny amounts of spores, millions of spores all the time. And these spores, they are essentially a seed, like a seed. So when the spore hits something, it starts growing in a one way, like a string. And then when another spore meets that string, so 2 strings come together, just like when you have the flowers and the bees and all that, then the spores create a mycelium network. And this is how it looks after we have been inoculating the bag with the mycelium after a week. So we take the mycelium, which is on grain, so it's called grain spawn. We mix grain spawn in a very sterile environment with the mixture of the bag, and then when it hits the bag, it starts spreading. So it starts eating the content inside of the bag. So what we have here is the oyster mushroom that have been eating the bag for a week now, and within a week it will start to look like this. So as you can see here, the bag is now fully colonized. It's white all over. And when it happens to reach this stage, we know that it's ready to go to the container. And out in the container, we will open the bag with a cut of just an X. Many people open it different ways. We found that opening it with an X in the bottom of the bag, where most of the moisture content is, the mushroom likes to come out there and are more potent when it's coming out there. So to really get to this point here, it requires different processes. We need to pasteurize the content of the bag, because if we don't, we will see that the bag will be contaminated. So as you can see here, we have green mold. We have what we saw is that we get green mold, black mold, and an orange mold. We found the orange mold comes from the coffee grounds that we are collecting, because the coffee grounds are in containers that we use to transport, and those containers become contaminated over time. So it brings the red mushroom, the red fungus inside of the bag if the coffee is contaminated. We will pasteurize it in the pasteurization machine that we've made. I will show you that later in the video. I will also show you how we do the inoculation in the sterile environment, and I will show you how we open the bag and how it looks when they go to the container. So now we have pasteurized everything, and it's been heated to at least 80 degrees, and that will kill off all pathogens and all other types of competing mushroom spores and funguses inside the bag. We don't want anything to compete with the mushroom that we are growing, because then we will get the maximum output and we will not have any contamination in our growing chamber where we are fruiting the mushrooms. Right now we are mixing everything in big buckets by hand. We're sure that it can be done more productively, because we can buy a machine that mixes everything up together with the water, and we can make sure that every single batch has the exact same water content. We found that if we fill up a big bucket with the straw and with the coffee and with the right amount of water, we can about the same make the same mixture. And the oyster mushroom doesn't really care about like if the mixture is exactly the correct every time. It just cares about that it's not too humid or like too dry. So if it's too dry, you will get like very, very small amounts of harvests, and if it's too wet, you will simply drown the mycelium. So if the mycelium grows fully inside the bag, you will know that you haven't made the mixture too wet. So you can by yourself figure the exact amount by trial and error and see over time how you are getting the right mixture on the bags. So now I want to show you what we are doing with the bags like this before we are inoculating the mushroom spores. So let the process begin. Something that we have been a little hesitant showing you, but now we choose to do it because we also want to provide something to the mushroom community. We have learned a lot on YouTube, so now it's our time to give back to the community. This is the way that we are pasteurizing our mushroom bags. So you have pasteurization and then you have sterilization. When you are pasteurizing, when you are growing oyster mushrooms, when you're growing lion's mane, basically, so the growing bag the bag you're growing in, it needs to be pasteurized. Is that what we have experienced and what we have learned? Some people sterilize it. We recommend only sterilizing grain. If you want to be completely sure the sterilization is the best process, because it takes you on a higher amount of temperature. But what we have been building here is basically just a shed that we have remoduled with a door that is as close as possible. So we have inside this shed, we have a water container with a basic water heater. I think it's 3 kilowatts. It just fills, the way we build it is that the container always fills up with more water. So the water can never be drying out of it. If it does, you ruin the heat element. But we have just modified a heat element inside this. And then we are able to drive containers in here with the bags filled and stacked on top of each other. Then we turn this machine on, and for 16 to 18 hours we keep it on and we keep the door closed. And then we can reach a desired temperature of 80 degrees inside the bags. It works by heating up the water to a boiling point where the vapor is released, and the steam from it will create a pressure inside this chamber. And then it will basically pressure pasteurize the bags. So this is the process that we use to pasteurize the bags. It's very simple, it's very low tech, and it works. For us, it works. We are thinking about building the room a little bit bigger, adding a heat element more, because then we can have a bigger amount of bags inside this chamber working. So after we've pasteurized the bags, we will take it to the room where we are inoculating the bags. I will show you that now. Welcome to the laboratory, as we call it. This is the way we set up our facility is very low cost and very simple, but it works and we don't get that much contamination. So this is the box we have created. It's fitted with 3 fans, and each fan has a 3D printed container that we can fit a HEPA filter down inside. So all the air that goes inside this chamber will create an overpressure inside the chamber. It will be completely sterile because we are using the HEPA filters to filter all the mushroom spores and the pathogens that we don't want to put inside the bag and compete with our oyster mushroom. And then we have put like a frame so we can see how we're doing it. So here we have an alcohol-based isopropyl alcohol solution that we make sure to always kill off everything. We spray it inside the whole container before we start, and then when it's ready to inoculate, we take the bags that are pasteurized inside here. We open them up without touching the inside of the bag, and then we take these mycelium grain that we get and put it inside. So now the mycelium is inside the bag. It's ready to start eating the bag, and now we need to hermetically seal it so we don't get any other fungus or contamination inside the bag. So we're using a sealer. We have also very, very low tech. Now the bag is sealed, the mycelium grain is inside the bag, and from this point you don't need to worry that much about hygiene. So the bag is sealed, the filter will make sure that nothing goes in, but only the CO2 and the air will be filtrated, and we shake it up. So we distribute the mycelium as much as we can inside the bag. Make sure you get everything out from the top, because that can also create some contamination risk. And we basically just make sure that it's It's very, very pressed, and now it's ready to go out onto the shelf. And within 2 weeks, we have a fully colonized bag that we are ready to open in the container. I will show you how we build the container now, so let's go out there. Welcome inside the container. As you can see here, we have the bags standing. We already harvested on them the first flush. So the first flush is the first harvest. We harvest usually 700 grams per bag on the first harvest, and then around 300 grams on the second harvest. Sometimes the bags will be contaminated in the area where you cut them. As you can see here, you have some green mold. This is very important that you remove the green mold and you remove the bag that's contaminated, because otherwise the whole room will be very fast contaminated with the spores of the green fungus. So as you can see in the environment here, we have a lot of vapor. So this is basically just vapor that we have on a fan and some vaporizers that are continuously driving out the vapor inside the container. I know it's a bit hard to see. The environment in the container here, we like to keep at around 90% humidity and between 20 to 26 degrees in temperature. It fluctuates a lot, but we still get quite consistent results. We have been testing different lighting setups, what works best, and what we found works best for us is to use some blue light. As you can see here, we have some of the second harvests. This is the second harvest on the bags. And if you go in the back of the container here, you can see we have some of the first flushes down here getting ready to expand, and they're still gonna grow a lot. So this is almost ready to harvest, but not quite. So we keep a system where we move them from one side to the other, and then within a month we will have harvested on the bags 2 times, and then it's time to throw away the bag. So outside the facility here, we have a compost pile that we turn, I think, every 2 weeks to create a really nice compost that farmers use on the field to expand how much they can grow percentage-wise output of their crops. So we can increase their yields with what we are throwing out here. So instead of throwing it on the garbage center or what you call it, we will put it on the fields to really just make a circular product where everything will be reused as many times as possible. This is basically how mushroom growing works. What I've been teaching you here, you can basically almost take and then just put other mushrooms, mycelium, inside the bag, and you can make a different mixture, but the process is the same. So I hope you learned something from this video. If you did, give the video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more awesome content like this.